Hey there riders, Moto Journo Kris here today. Let's look at the rider fit of the Z500. I'm 180 centimeters or so, probably in boots. I have a 32-inch inseam. I've got longer legs, shorter torso. I'm gonna give you a look at how I fit the bike, and hopefully you can extrapolate that a little bit as to whether this is gonna suit you. Couple of facts. 785mm seat height, nice and narrow seat, and of course tank and bike between the legs. This is one of the lowest naked bikes that you can jump onto until you go down to a cruiser where they can get significantly lower. Also, naked bike, so it's got nice wide, fairly flat bars. It has a tight seat to peg ratio. Just because that seat is so low, there's only so much room you really can get there. That does make it sportier, and if you're looking for a more stretched out machine, you're probably gonna need something with a taller seat height. There's some compromises to be made everywhere. As far as the adjustability, it's quite minor. You don't have adjustable levers, which is a little surprising to me in 2024. You have non-adjustable suspension. The front is good. The rear has preload adjustability. The rear was a little bit more of a mixed bag for me. It was quite rough at lower speeds on bad road conditions, but did get better at kind of higher speeds when I guess the bike just seemed to handle that much better, but very, very limited adjustability. It is quite a conservative machine from Kawasaki. However, they did a really good job with the 400s, and the 500s are the natural kind of continuation of that. So as you can see here, getting a leg over the bike, super easy. Now I have a 32-inch inseam, so probably up to 830, 840, 850 mils is quite natural for me. I don't really have any issues with that. But on this bike, certainly if you're a new rider and you don't have a lot of confidence, not only is that low seat height going to make it easy to get the leg over, and then importantly to get hopefully 2 feet down or 1 foot down perhaps, probably the foot on this side, and keep your brake covered, it's still going to be a very ultra manageable bike, particularly with the 167 kilo weight, which is super light. And that is fueled, I believe, off the top of my head. So this is one of the lighter bikes in the category, which is very, very nice to see. They haven't added any weight with electronics and things like that, and that is why the previous model is the same weight as this model, both 167 kilos. And probably part of that is they haven't added a huge bread box to the exhaust, but probably not quite so ergo related on that one. Reach to the bars, nice and natural. As you can see here, I've got a little bit of bend in my elbow. I did find when I was kind of riding a little bit more sportily, I got in a little bit more into the bike, and the bend in my elbows increased, and I was riding much more sportily. It was very easy to lock in between the peg and the tank, and obviously the seat. The one criticism I would have is that the seat is not the most comfortable, and when the shock was harsh, it was pushing me forward or really compacting my spine. Now, that was only a very specific set of conditions and poor road conditions, but I do think it's worth mentioning. At higher speeds, I didn't have that issue really at all, but also if you're getting off the bike a little bit more, you're kind of changing the weight distribution of the bike, and as a result, I do think that helps the shock performance quite a bit. Seat uncomfortable, I would say after 30, 45 minutes for me, and I don't have that much padding on my behind, so obviously that's gonna vary from person to person. It's quite a well padded seat, but for whatever reason, I've always just felt like I could kind of feel the contours under the seat very, very quickly. I can even feel that now, and it feels kind of like it's, you know, it's more like this, where I would have thought it would be more of a cup. And maybe it's just because the foam is fairly soft. Maybe a thicker foam would do a better job, but that was always a criticism with my Ninja 400. This feels totally unchanged, and I had the Ninja 400 until like a month or two ago, and yeah, I never replaced the seat, but anytime I did a long ride, I really wished I had. So that probably gives you a little bit of context as to how important I think the seat replacement is, but yeah, the comfort on the seat, not great. So as I said, easy reach to those bars. We'll get both feet up. We've got the stand down, so you can see here. It is a sporty feeling bike because of that seat to peg ratio, but it's kind of what you expect. I would probably say if you jump on the bike and you're getting cramps straight away in your legs from just how tight that angle is, then it's probably not for you. There is a little bit of rider fitness involved, I would say, with taking the weight through the pegs. But if you're doing a lot of commuting, you're just going to be plonked down on this bike, And probably the big thing there, which also doesn't help the comfort, is the seat feels like it's angled down a little bit. It does kind of force you into the bike this way, and I think that's part of where the discomfort comes from. Vision of the dash, really good. Obviously only an LCD dash. It does have phone connectivity. You use the Kawasaki Radiology app for that one. Good vision through those mirrors, pretty good adjustability. Not perfect, but very, very good, so I can't complain about that. And yeah, other than that, it's pretty simple. I did find that clutch upshifts, I mean, the clutch is super light. So just like on the Ninja 400, it is very, very light. Maybe not quite as light as the Ninja 400. That thing was super light. I reckon they've probably put maybe some heavier springs in just to make there be a little bit more feel at the clutch. I found upshifts very, very easy. Downshifts are super clunky in first, second, third, and that kind of surprised me. But I think there's probably a little bit too much slack in that clutch, so that might just be it. And I should probably we'll see if that fixes it, but that was one thing that I did really notice. So overall, I do think that this is a bike which is going to appeal to shorter riders quite easily because of that low seat height, the nice lightweight. It is very well balanced, so you shouldn't have any issues there. And at the end of the day, the reach to the ground is going to be very, very manageable. If you can't manage this bike, and that is going to be something that comes down to how you feel about having, say, 1 foot down or maybe the ball of 1 foot down instead of both feet down flat. You're probably going to need to look at a cruiser. So I just thought I'd give you another angle of me jumping on the bike just to give you a bit of a better idea. And so as you can see here, with both feet down flat, I am actually standing above the bike quite easily. Sitting on the bike, a little bit of bend in my knees. And I will say on this kind of height of bike, for me at a 32-inch inseam, there can be situations where I kind of am stubbing a toe because the reach to the ground is quite easy. If you're much shorter, that is not going to be the case, and you might only be getting 1 foot down or the toe of 1 foot down, which is still reasonable. Obviously in the learning stages, that can be quite a scary thought, but because the bike isn't too heavy and is a very, very manageable and well-balanced bike, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. And I'll move the camera around so you can have a look at the bike straight on to get a bit of an idea of just how narrow it is, which again is a real help as far as getting the foot down, and from a balance perspective, as long as the weight isn't too high, which on this bike I certainly wouldn't say it is. All right, and from directly in front, again, as you can see, a very easy tail to throw the leg over because it's not super tall overall. And again, the bike is really, really narrow between the legs. It does get quite a bit wider here on those front bits of bodywork, which are around the radiators and the radiator cowls, but the styling's done really nicely there. And then, as you can see, nice, easy seating position. Should be suitable for the vast majority of riders. Really big riders, I think, might find the bike a little bit small, but overall, should be a good proposition for most people. And so from kind of a beginner rider perspective, when you combine all of these ergonomic aspects with a nice torquey and well-fueled kind of opening throttle, this is a super forgiving bike for new riders, and it should still be rewarding enough for people who like small bikes but are fully licensed but don't need enormous amounts of power. And again, the big update on this bike was the engine, which has actually less peak power, but quite a bit more torque, and that's very, very noticeable. But check out my full review for my overall thoughts on that. Anyway, that is the ergos of the Z500. If you've got any questions, let me know down below in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, stay safe out there, and thanks for watching.